Took office many years ago, we had our income tax rates were well over 6%, and we had like 9 brackets. Now we are down to 2 brackets, and the top rate is only 3.5%. I just submitted an amendment yesterday to try to get us to a flat tax, which will tee us up nicely for an eventual 0% income tax. And we also believe in limited government, so fewer regulations. And a couple years ago, I sponsored a bill that would cut regulations by 30% in this state. That it was signed by the governor. It's taking effect. And we're for every 1 regulation in, we're getting 2 out. So I'm very proud of that work, too. Thank you. As Republicans, we also believe that parents know what's best for their kids, particularly when it comes to their education. So in the last operating budget, we now put in universal school choice. So every parent, every child gets a voucher, and that money will follow them to their school of their choice. As Republicans, we also believe in meritocracy. And Senate Bill 1 of this General Assembly gets DEI out of higher education. And lastly, I have been and always will be pro-life. So, yeah. We have won some tough elections, and I give glory to God for every one of those victories, and I give glory to Him for every one of the battles that we've fought. And we've done it side by side with you guys in this room, so thank you. Thank you for your support for that. But in Ohio, we've turned around. We're in a great position in the Midwest, but honestly, we can do so much more. If we only had a governor that was bold, a visionary, someone that shared our values. And that is who it gives me a great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Vivek. I met Vivek back in January of 2023, and I was at it was at the March for Life Symposium in D.C. He spoke, and as they were introducing him, they said, okay, he went to Harvard and Yale. I'm like, oh, he's smart. He wrote a couple books. I'm like, well, okay, he's really smart. They said he started a couple businesses, very successful. I'm like, well, he's entrepreneurial. That's good. That's good. But it was when he started speaking that he had me. I mean, I was floored. Because he spoke the truth. He spoke it boldly. It became very clear to me then that he was like, we need to get ESG out of the corporate boardrooms. We need to focus on shareholder capitalism, not stakeholder capitalism. He was brilliant. And I was like, I have to meet this man. So I literally, with my daughter who is here today, we rushed up to the stage. And I don't know if you even remember that, but I'm like, hi, I'm Senator Rogner. I'm from Ohio. And I love what you said. And can we exchange numbers? And he was gracious enough to give me his cell phone number at the time. Then after that, I saw him again. He spoke at Forge, where my daughter was a member of Forge. I saw him in Florida at the Young Americans for Liberty conference. I saw him at the State House. And it was through that I learned that this man is a true constitutional conservative. He knows our Constitution. He loves it. He loves our country. He is a true patriot. And again, I was like, wow, we need this man in office. So when he announced his run for president of the United States, I called him up. And I talked to him. And I'm like, I really respect and admire you. I love what you stand for. You're bold. You're a fighter. You're courageous. I'm going to endorse you to be our next president of the United States. So he graciously accepted that endorsement. But then it was shortly thereafter, he ended up dropping out of the race and endorsing President Trump. And it's because every time I turn on Fox News, there he is. He was pounding the pavement for Trump and speaking so articulately. And I know President Trump. And by the way, who else is excited that President Trump is in the White House? Yes? It took a lot of people to get President Trump into the White House, and certainly right here is one of the key men that made that happen. And of course, shortly after President Trump was elected, Vivek founded Doge, along with Elon Musk, to cut our national spending, get out all that wasteful spending out of there. I love that. I love what he did. And then we were also very blessed then at that point that he decided he was going to come into Ohio and run for governor. When I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So I went over to his house and I sat down and I met his wife, Apoorva, and his 2 precious young boys. And it was that time I realized He is a devoted husband, a loving father. He shares our family values. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to endorse him to be our next governor. So then I went on the tour with him. We did this 4-city, 2-day tour. And so that first city, on stage, it was a lot of big crowd. And I was proud to announce my endorsement for Vivek Ramaswamy to be our next governor. And I thought that was pretty cool. But then later that same night, our president, Donald Trump, posts his endorsement. And he says, if I may read some of it, Vivek Ramaswamy is young and strong, smart. Vivek is a very good person who truly loves our country. He'll be a great governor of Ohio. He'll never let you down. And he has my complete and total endorsement. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my good friend, our next governor of the great state of Ohio, Vivek Ramaswamy.
Crowd's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you. And give this woman another round of applause. Christina Rogner. Very bright future ahead in our state. And she does a great impression of President Trump. I like that. That's good. I didn't know you had that skill, Christina. That's great. It's great to be here. And I also appreciate that announcer. He really had quite a voice. I don't know where.
That real.
Where is he? He was fantastic. I want to thank him for getting the pronunciation of my name right. That's something that's happened over the course of this. It's Vivek like cake and Ramaswamy like Ramaswamy is the way I like to say it. There's no other way to get to that one. So I want us to get used to tonight a new state of reality for the Republican Party in Ohio and in America. We're going to have to accept a fact that still feels like it's somewhat new to us. It's the fact that we won in November of 2024, and it feels fantastic, all right? It feels fantastic, and it is fantastic. But with that comes a shift in our mindset that I think is required for the moment we live in. And that's going to be the theme of my remarks tonight. Because you see, I spent a big part of the last 4 years myself. I'm guilty as charged on this of criticizing Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and their agenda ceaselessly, because that was what was required at the time to expose the rot that got our national decline to the place where we were. And in November, we were able to set it straight for the future of the United States of America. We got it right. But with that now comes a new responsibility on our shoulders. See, I was on Jesse Waters' show about a month ago. I told this story, another Lincoln Day dinner. He's a funny guy. We had a nice little chat on air. He gave this monologue. It was about Al Gore. He was riffing about something or other that Al Gore had said. And in my mind, I'm thinking, who cares? It doesn't matter. But at the end of it, I'm listening with the earpiece. It comes into me, and he says, "Oh, Vivek, what do you think of what Al Gore said?" I said, "I don't really think of what Al Gore said, because it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. And if 6 months from now we're still talking about Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, that means we lost the plot. Frankly, I want our memory of Joe Biden in September of this year to be about the same as Joe Biden's memory for anything while he was the president. All right? And if we get there, we're in a good spot. Because this isn't just what we're running from anymore. Now the question is, what are we running to? What does it mean to be a Republican? What does it mean to be a conservative? What does it mean to be an American now in the year 2025? This is our moment to rediscover our identity, who we really are as a people. Because for the last 4 years, we did go through a national identity crisis. Faith in God, patriotism, hard work, family, all but disappeared, it felt, in so much of our country. Our young people, I say this as a millennial, I'm 39 years old, my generation and the generation below me, we were hungry for a cause, hungering to be part of something bigger than ourselves. And yet so many couldn't even answer what it meant to be an American. Less than 16% of Gen Z said they were proud to be American in the Biden years. And we had a 25% recruitment deficit in the U.S. military, which we've now successfully turned around. After that victory in November, I can tell you now I am more genuinely optimistic about the future of our country than I have ever been in my life. I do believe that we're on the cusp of a new golden age in the United States of America that comes once in a generation, a once-in-a-century opportunity to revive our conviction in what it means to be a citizen of this nation. What does it mean to be an American? It means we believe in the ideals of 1776. It means we believe in meritocracy and hard work and the pursuit of excellence. That you do get ahead in this country, not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character and your contributions. That is why we're done with the woke DEI regime and the group quotas and affirmative action. Because we believe in merit. That is who we are as Americans. It means we believe in the rule of law. And I say this as the proud son of legal immigrants to Cincinnati, Ohio. That means your first act of entering this country cannot break the law. And that is why if we've had the largest influx of illegals into our country, then we ought to have the largest mass deportation in American history as well. That's what it means to stand for the rule of law in the United States of America. It means the people we elect to run the government ought to be the ones who actually run the government, not unelected bureaucrats in three-letter agencies in Washington, D.C. or Columbus, Ohio, for that matter. It means we believe in free speech and open debate. That includes even the people who were the protesters outside earlier today. I was about to make some time to go talk to them, as I usually try to do, but they were scattering by the time that we went out to check. And I just think they got to pay these protesters more, right? Maybe pay some overtime, at least for the protesters. Practice what you preach a little bit. But we'll stand for their right to be able to protest. There's a funny story, too. We're in Summit County today, but when we started our Lincoln Day circuit, and I think this must be close to my 40th Lincoln Day that we've done across the state, which has been a great pleasure to travel the state. I'll tell you a funny story in Lucas County, where there was a photo line like we had here. And the guy at the very back of the photo line, he had a book. He wanted me to sign it. He was there with his son. He wanted to take the picture. He wanted them to print that and me to sign the picture. He was so enthusiastic. So I just asked him, well, sir, where's your wife tonight? And he said, actually, she's one of the protesters outside. So maybe it happened it's a big enough room. Maybe it happened in this room tonight as well. But that's what it means to be an American. We believe in free speech and open debate. And you know what? At our best, sometimes we can still get together at the dinner table at the end of it, as I hope that husband and wife did that night. So this is what it means to be an American. This is what we want to revive in our country. But saving our country is not a one-man job. It doesn't work that way. It never has. President Trump is doing his job in Washington, D.C., but if our country is going to be saved, it is now going to be because the states step up and lead the way back to greatness. This is our chance as Ohio to lead the way. Not just following Texas or Florida. Not anymore. Visited our friends in Texas and Florida in each of the last couple of weeks. I was in each of those states one day. And I told them, you know what? You guys have given us some great models that we're going to shamelessly copy and bring back to Ohio where applicable. But if we're doing our job in Ohio in the next 4 years, we're not just going to be copying Florida and Texas. It's going to be Texas and Florida following Ohio's lead. We're going to return the favor. We're paving America's path back to our greatest days ahead of us. And that is why I'm running to be your next governor. I don't want to just lead Ohio to be one of the better states in the Midwest, because frankly, we are one of the better states in the Midwest already. I want to lead Ohio to be the top state in the nation when it comes to raising a young family, living the American dream, pursuing excellence in meritocracy and capitalism. The state where we lead in the sectors of the future, from semiconductor production to our defense industrial base. The state where patriots across this country flock to and flock back to, not just our friends in Texas and Florida. That is where I want to lead our state of Ohio, to be the state of excellence in the United States of America. Now, there are those who will say, including our friends who I visited in the last couple of weeks in New York and California and Texas and Florida alike, They say, don't get carried away. How could Ohio be that state in America? I remind them that it was not long ago that Ohio was that state in the United States of America. See, there's a trope among Gen Z in the last few years where if something was a little bit old or out of touch, they would say on the internet, only in Ohio. And that irritated me, to be honest with you, because it wasn't long ago that people weren't making fun of Ohio. They were aspiring to be Ohio. You see, at the turn of the last century, we were the wealthiest state in the Union. The heart of the Industrial Revolution with great economic power. At the heart of the country, great fertile farmland, great natural resources. Even in the 1950s, 6 of the top 15 wealthiest cities in America were right here in Ohio. That includes Akron, the rubber capital of the world. That's where we are tonight. We're proud of it. It includes Toledo, the glass capital of the world. Youngstown and Cleveland, not far from where we are, led the way in steel production for the Western Hemisphere. Dayton led in computing. My hometown of Cincinnati was known around the world as the Queen City. The heart of Porkopolis is what we were called. The consumer products capital of the United States. You see, that was our heritage as a state. We had more people than Texas. In 1960, there were more people in the state of Ohio than in the state of Texas, where they have 3 times as many today. That wasn't that long ago. We're the state of the pioneers, the explorers, the unafraid. The state that gave Neil Armstrong the self-confidence as a young man, born, raised, living right here in Ohio when he became the first man in human history to walk on the moon. The state of John Glenn, the first American to go into orbit, born, raised, living right here in Ohio as he did it. The state of the Wright brothers, born and raised in Dayton, Ohio, taking flight at a moment where that was deemed impossible. We were the state of excellence in America. And you know what? I believe that we can be that state again. Because if you think about it, we have every natural gift that we did the first time around. Same fertile farmland. Same great natural resources under our ground, including even natural gas, which we now know is more valuable than it even was at the time of the first industrial revolution. A great geographical, I'll give natural gas a round of applause. President Trump, he's in Saudi Arabia this last week. We're like the Saudi Arabia of natural gas to the world. All we got to do is get out of the ground, build the pipelines, and use it with pride for our natural resources. We got a great geographic location for it as well. 60% of North America's population is within a single day's drive of where we're having dinner right now. Erie Canal to New York City, Ohio River to the Mississippi. God has blessed our state with every natural gift we could wish for to be the state that leads America back to greatness. All we have to do is to actually believe in ourselves to be the people who step up and do it. I'll tell you, hopefully with your help as the next leader of this state, I believe deep in my bones that we're in the middle of a second industrial revolution where Ohio is going to be the state that leads. If it was Silicon Valley for the last 10 years, it's going to be the Ohio River Valley for the next 10 years. We're done with the Rust Belt. We're bringing back the Platinum Belt to the United States of America. We're not just chasing the past, we're chasing our future. I don't want to lead Ohio back to 1950. Make no mistake, I want Ohio of 2030 to represent to America and to the world what the Ohio of 1950 represented. And that's a different point. That means it's not just the sectors of the past, but also the sectors of the future, from semiconductor production to our defense industrial base, from nuclear energy to natural gas to power our electric grid for the future, leadership in medicine, from biotech to Bitcoin to our defense industrial base built right here in the heart of the country. The state where we use AI not to take jobs, but to make jobs through workforce training and education. That's where I want to lead our state. This is our modern-day Northwest Ordinance, the 2025 version of when a group of Baptists, in that case, traveled halfway across the country to settle and establish religious freedom and freedom of speech even before the Constitutional Convention. That's our heritage in Ohio. This is our modern-day Northwest Ordinance in Ohio once again. We are a conservative state, founded and built and embodying the great principles this country was founded on. It's up to us to stand for those conservative principles. Be a conservative state that's actually governed like the conservative state we are at our roots. That's not going to lose us elections. That will win us elections in Ohio and in Summit County alike, because it's going to put more money in your pocket. It's going to put more money in the pockets of those Democrats and those protesters outside, too. They just don't know it yet. It's going to lift up more people from poverty. It's going to give our kids that missing self-confidence and conviction that I believe is the birthright of every Ohioan. That conviction that Neil Armstrong and John Glenn and the Wright brothers had to achieve the impossible. It's going to make us the state that patriots flock to, including so many of our kids and grandkids who have left our state to pursue opportunity elsewhere, to repatriate them to our state to be close to their roots where they belong. And that is going to require, I believe, a new generation of leadership to lead that generation of Ohioans to our future, building on a great foundation that we have. Thank you. We have so many excellent state legislators across this room, around me, behind me, and leaders across the state who have laid an outstanding foundation that we will build on to lead Ohio to even greater days ahead. This will, thank you, I appreciate that, because we got to recognize the work that came before that we're going to build on. But it's going to require, building on that foundation to be the top in the country, it is going to require some changes. We have to be honest with ourselves. We do have a population decline in this state that we're going to have to turn around. Right now, there's more people leaving our state than moving in. The people leaving are younger, college-educated workers. The people moving in tend to be on government aid. We love them, but that's the fact. And that doesn't work demographically for our state in the long run. So one of the things you're going to hear from me over the course of this year, every month or so, we're going to come out with a different policy that is designed to turn that population decline around. And I'll tell you tonight, one of those policies that's going to keep people in our state and make us a magnet for patriots across the country is that we will make Ohio a zero income tax state on my watch. It is your money. You deserve to keep what you earn. And it's not just the income tax. We know how the property tax weighs on Ohioans today. We're going to put a statewide ceiling on the property tax and tell people what you're actually voting for at the ballot box, because you deserve to actually own the land that is yours. It should not be a lease from the government. It is unjust, it is un-American, and we're going to put an end to it on my watch as well. The income tax, the capital gains tax, the property taxation in this state. We're a red state, but we should not be a state of red tape. And we're going to be cutting that red tape like they don't know what hit them. For every new regulation they want to add, we will rescind at least 10 others before I even consider it. So we unleash our economy. So we become the state where we build like nobody's seen since that first industrial revolution. Build more homes. Build more manufacturing plants. Build more small businesses that grow up to be big businesses. Build more startups. Build a family, build wealth, build a life in the mold of the American dream so that we can be the state of manufacturing dominance in America, energy dominance in America, AI dominance in America. Not just about our GDP numbers. This is about restoring our economic and social fabric as a state. So we're no longer a place where little league teams have to shut down because they can't find a local company to sponsor them. Where a mom doesn't have to think twice before having that second or third or fourth kid for fear of the cost of a new stroller or buying a bigger car. A state where every parent has that bone-deep conviction that their kids will go on to live an even better life than they did by pursuing it and staying right here in Ohio to do it. The state where if you work hard, play by the rules, you get to have a good life and dream for an even better life for your kids. That's how we're going to make Ohio the cradle of the American dream in the United States of America. Thank you. Thank you. Now, in order to get there, there's one key thing we're going to have to turn around, not just for our state, but for the country. If our future as a country is destined to remain the greatest country on earth, as I believe we should for the next 250 years, we're going to have to find our way out of the educational achievement crisis that we're really in today. And it is a crisis. Today, 75% of 8th graders are not proficient in math. The average student in China is a full 4 years ahead of the average student here. So do the math on that. A 7th grader here is performing at the equivalent of a 3rd grade student in China. That's unacceptable. And I know I speak for every parent in this state and in this room tonight, where I say we refuse to stand by and idly watch as China laughs at our gradual decay. No, we're going to turn this ship around. We're going to turn it around in the state of Ohio. I'm going to lead Ohio to be the top state in the country and in the world to give our kids a world-class education in the foundational subjects of math, reading, writing, financial literacy, civic education, and physical education. Instead of woke indoctrination and victimhood psychology, focus on the achievement of our students at the highest level possible. That means our kids have to show up at school. And thanks to the disastrous COVID-19 school closures, we have a chronic absenteeism epidemic in this state. I'll promise you this, that never again will we bend the knee to a fake Anthony Fauci knockoff who allowed our public schools to be shuttered while our private schools remained open. Dr. Amy Acton owes our kids an apology. She hasn't given it yet, and thanks to your help, we're going to make sure we defeat her by 40 points across the state of Ohio. And we're going to have you deliver Summit County for us, too, next November. But that's just the basic table stakes. We have to focus on the achievement of our students from the sports fields to the classroom. And that means doing some things a little differently, maybe even as Republicans. What we're about to share here, this is not a Republican talking point, but I'm going to give it to you straight anyway because it's true. The average public school teacher on a starting salary of $40,000 a year cannot actually live the American dream in the state of Ohio, not in the year 2025. And yet we somehow expect that's going to attract the best and brightest and most successful into the profession when that's not working. So I say this as a proud Republican. I believe our best public school teachers ought to be paid a lot more than they are right now. It's just got to be tied to performance. It's got to be tied to actual merit, not just teaching to the test, but peer assessments in the school, parental assessments. You can't run a business without a performance management system. We shouldn't be running much larger than most businesses, which is our public school system, without basic performance management either. We're going to be the first state in the country that does it, and we will be a magnet for the best educators across America, because that is what our students deserve in the state of Ohio. We're going to empower those teachers to bring discipline to the classroom without having to fear of look over their shoulder of being sued for basic discipline of students who are really not even well served by living in a boundaryless condition. Go to our cities. You'll hear of teachers who have been threatened, say they can't even do in-school suspension. That's not courtesy or compassion to the student. In the long run, that too is a form of cruelty. Not just in math, reading, and writing, but physical education too. We're going to bring back PE as early as kindergarten. We're going to bring back the presidential fitness test in middle school. Frankly, I don't know why we got rid of it in the first place. That includes the pull-ups. I promise I did mine this morning. The best way to save on health costs in the long run is actually to have a healthier population in the first place. Not just physical health, but mental health too. That crisis and epidemic of depression, anxiety, fentanyl, opioid addiction, suicide that has festered in our state and frankly in our country for far too long. We got to turn it around by filling that vacuum of purpose in our young people with the real thing. Individual, family, nation, and God beats race, gender, sexuality, and climate if we have the courage to stand for what is right, what is true, what is good. Get the cell phones out of the classroom, baiting our kids into this cycle of ADD and Ritalin treatment that isn't serving them well. Replace that woke indoctrination and victimhood psychology with actual U.S. history lessons, actual civics lessons that teach our kid to be proud of our state and our country, not ashamed of it. Say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning as we did tonight, with a moment of silence to go along with it in every public school in our state. To be able to require higher standards that we expect of ourselves and our next generation of citizens comes with some tough love. True love comes with tough love when it comes to your kids. Every high school senior who graduates from an Ohio high school on my watch will have to pass the same civics test required of every legal immigrant before they become naturalized citizens. You got to at least know it to be able to graduate from high school. You got to know something about your country to be proud of your country, to pledge allegiance to your country, to love your country. And that basic foundation in K through 12 education lays the groundwork for then achieving more through our higher education. And I say this as somebody whose path to the American dream went through four-year college degree program. I became an entrepreneur. I studied biology. My wife, Apurva, who is the true hero of the family, she's a throat surgeon at the Cancer Hospital in Columbus, at the James at Ohio State. Actually, one of my favorite parts of traveling these Lincoln Day dinners across the state is how many people I'll hear coming up and thanking me for what my wife was able to do to them in the operating room, in the airway surgery she does day to day. Her path to the American dream went through four-year college education as well. But she and I both recognize that our path cannot and must not be the only path in Ohio either to success. I also want to make sure we're the state where every young man and woman who wants to become a welder or a mechanic or a carpenter or an electrician or a plumber or a machine operator also has that same path to the American dream as well, without taking on burdensome four-year college debt, with earn-while-you-learn programs as early as high school, without occupational licensing requirements. Senator Rogner, you've been outstanding on bringing those down and tearing down that red tape in our state. We want to be the state where every path is open to every child. And we made this mistake for years of saying it was four-year college degrees or bust. And I don't want to make the opposite mistake where we now say, oh, that's elite, so therefore we don't like that. No, it's all elite is the way I look at it. In the state of Ohio, we want to be the place where every young man and woman who wants to become that doctor or engineer or computer programmer or whatever that requires a four-year college degree can pursue the best degree program they can here in the state of Ohio, while also every young man and woman who wants to become that welder or electrician or mechanic can also pursue that American dream. That is what a true meritocracy is about. That is what this country was built on. A true meritocracy recognizes that every one of us, every one of you, every one of our kids has your own unique God-given gift, distinct from every other person in the world, actually. And that we are the nation where you get to make the most of your own unique God-given talent without any man or system or government or bureaucracy standing in your way. That is the American dream. That is what made America great the first time. And that is how we will make Ohio great again. A generation of young people in our state who aren't spiteful to somebody else's success because they're participating in it with real skin in the game themselves. The state where the American dream is your birthright, where success is your birthright, where a world-class education is your birthright, where freedom is your heritage and excellence is your destiny. This is not a small vision for our state. It is not a humble vision. Humility is rarely an accusation leveled against me. I'll admit that. It's not a humble vision because I believe that's who we really are. We're ambitious as Ohioans and as Americans. We're not victims. We're victors. We don't whine, we win. When we rallied behind the cry to make America great again, we hungered for the unapologetic pursuit of excellence in the United States of America. That's the American dream that I've lived. My parents came to this country over 45 years ago with no money to Cincinnati, Ohio. And in a single generation, I went on to become a successful businessman, write multiple best-selling books, marry my wife, Apurva, who's lived her American dream, raising our two sons in circumstances that we would have never imagined when we were growing up in Westchester and Evendale, Ohio. And the extraordinary thing about that story is that it's really not that extraordinary in the United States of America. That's what makes this country great, different and distinct from every other nation in human history, actually. I met several of you. I think a couple of you came from an Italian family, you were telling me beforehand. There you guys were. We're coming over to your house for the lasagna. We talked about that. The funny thing, I think about this at times. We could go reside in Italy. We love that country. I love visiting Italy. We could go reside in Italy, but we would never be an Italian. You could go reside in India, but you'd never be an Indian. You could go reside in Germany, but you'd never be a German. You could go live the rest of your life in Japan or China, and you would never be Japanese or Chinese. But you can come from any one of those countries to the United States of America, and you can still be an American, as long as you pledge allegiance to the ideals this country was founded on, as long as you work hard, play by the rules, give a better life to your kids. That is the American way, and I'm going to fight every day for that American dream, for my kids and for yours. I want to travel this state. We're going to visit all 88 counties this year. Frankly, I think we're coming up close on 60 already, and we're only 3 months in. We're going to visit all 88 counties next year. We're going to visit all 88 counties every one of the next 8 years. I hope after that I serve as your next governor, because we don't want to govern from a bubble. I'm not running to be the mayor of Greater Columbus. I'm running to be the governor of all of Ohio. That includes the success of every part of Ohio, from the Appalachia to Akron to the inner city of Toledo. That's what we want, is success for every part of our state. I want to listen to you, not just the people in this room, frankly, but even the people who aren't in this room. Now, last time Christina and I worked together, there was another story with one of the protesters. You remember that? Yeah, where were we? Wayne County, right? Yeah. There was a woman who was outside, and at that time, those protesters actually stayed long enough for me to show up. They were the kind that, as best I could tell, were not paid to be there. And they were earnest, right? There was a woman who, she was very mad at me. She was very upset. She was kind of screaming at me, and she said, "Why are you cutting veterans benefits?" I said, "I'm not cutting veterans benefits." She said, "No, you're cutting veterans benefits. Why are you doing it?" I said, "A, I'm not cutting veterans benefits. B, a governor can't cut veteran benefits. And even if a governor could, it'd be a terrible platform to run on. So I'm not cutting veterans benefits, but are you a veteran?" She said, "Yes, I am." I said, "Where'd you serve?" She said, "I served in Vietnam." I said, "You know what? I can respect that despite our disagreements. Thank you for your service to our country. Why don't you have dinner? Come in with us." And she actually joined us at the head table for dinner that night. And she sat patiently, and she was sitting about as far as you are, sir, from me. And I was kind of watching her as I was giving the speech. And she was a little uncomfortable towards the beginning of it, but she sort of loosened up through the course of the program. And at the end of it, we asked her to stand up, along with every other veteran in the room. And the entire room, we Republicans, we love our veterans. We applauded for her. She appreciated that. We can give our veterans in the room tonight a round of applause as well. Thank you for that. And it was just one of these moments where we could see her really sort of warming up a little bit. I called her on stage, and I told her to share some thoughts with the audience. We gave her the mic and said, "We'd hear from you what you had to say." I think she wasn't fully prepared for that, but what she said was very brief, was that, "You all have changed my perspective on Republicans tonight." And that's what she told Wayne County. And to me, that night counted as a success. Because it turns out, I think most people, not all people, but most people are actually pretty reasonable if you explain to them why you're doing what you're actually doing. And that's my message to the people who aren't in this room tonight. I don't care if you're black or white or urban or rural or Democrat or Republican for that matter. If you care about the educational success of your kids, if you care about giving the next generation the same shot at the American dream that this state gave to me and to my family, then we will work with you to lead our state to the next level. We will have a seat for you at the table in this movement, and we're going to be on the same team leading Ohio to our best days ahead of it. To every libertarian, independent, orphaned Reagan Democrat, anybody who's politically homeless or literally homeless in this state, I mean it, we have a seat for you at the table, because we're going to work together as one Ohio to lead our state back to greatness. We do not deserve to be a state in decline. We're not a nation in decline. I believe we, like our country, are still a state in our ascent, still on our way up, still on our way to that shining city on a hill, that state and that country where we will look our kids in the eye and mean it when we tell them that you get ahead in the United States of America and you get ahead in the state of Ohio with your own hard work, with your own commitment, with your own dedication. And that, you know what, you are free to speak your mind at every step of the way. That is the American dream. That is what we are running to. So that 10 years from now, when we're sending manned rockets to Mars, when we're powering our electric grid with the energy of the future, when we're curing previously incurable diseases with cures discovered right here in Ohio, you know what our young people are going to say then? Only in Ohio. That is my dream for this state. And with your help, we're going to get there. Thank you. God bless you and your families, and may God bless our great state of Ohio. Fight, 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 and we're going to get the job done. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for being here. We'll be calling us and reaching out. I appreciate it. Please stay traveling home.